Superheroes in spandex, maniacal villains, mutant turtles. These are some of the things people recall when thinking of comic books. But what is the appeal of these adventures on paper? Comic books are illustrated works of literature. They're also a way to escape into a realm of imagination where anything is possible and adventures are abundant. There's something for everyone.
I think it's different for each person. Some people like the artist, some people like the character, some people like the writer. The appeal of a Spider-Man is that he is an everyman. And Spider-Man could be you. Spider-Man could be me. He's just an average kid, kind of a nerd, picked on in high school, and he gets these great powers, and then he becomes a superhero. Anybody could be that.
Until the late 70s, comic books were only found in supermarkets, drugstores, or newsstands. By this time, they were so popular, these stores couldn't keep up with the amount of titles being released.
The direct market was the emergence of comic shops actually evolving, which was unheard of at the time. But it was a store specifically designed to sell only comic books. And you could go into that shop, and what I learned when I was a kid is the direct market got the books like 3 weeks earlier than the newsstands. You'd have them before your friends.
Comic books enjoyed a long and healthy rise, but for every up, there's a corresponding down. That fall came in the 90s.
In the 90s, they did this big story, the death of Superman. People thought, I'm going to buy this, and someday it's going to be like Action Comics #1. It's going to be worth $250,000. But what they don't know is there's maybe a dozen known in existence copies left of Action Comics #1. People started buying comics as an investment, thinking that it was going to make them rich somehow. And it lasted for a good 2 or 3 years, and then I think when they saw that the prices weren't going up, I think it kind of bottomed out. And the business still, I don't think, has recovered.
As all things must, comic books have changed and evolved in many ways in recent years. From writing styles to art, comics have taken a whole new direction.
The trend, I think, now is that you get more literate writers. We're getting writers that are writing film scripts or TV scripts. You got Kevin Smith, who's famous for his movies Clerks and Mallrats, who's now doing Daredevil, who's doing The Black Cat, who did Green Arrow.
Brian Branch, owner of Keith's Comics, elaborates.
With the whole restructuring of Marvel Comics, they brought in a different editor-in-chief, and he went to more bringing creators onto the books to make the books better, instead of just, we'll put anybody on this title because it sells anyway. They would actually try to attract the best writers and the best artists.
Since the disappointment of the 90s, the comic book industry has set plans in motion to revitalize itself and bring in new readers.
Promotional comics such as this Fantastic Four, 9 cents, and they wanted to make it the most inexpensive issue of Fantastic Four ever. The first issue back in the 60s was 10 cents.
What they're trying to do to stimulate the business is put books out there for cheap. They're trying to put 9-cent Fantastic Four, 10-cent Batman, 10-cent, I think Superman's coming out soon, 10-cent Hulk is coming out to coincide with the movie. They're doing things like free comic book day. You got to go to your comic book dealer on a certain day and they'll hand you a free comic book, which is great.
Some of the more popular trends would be the 80s explosion that happened a couple years ago with the bringing back the Transformers and G.I. Joe and now Thundercats. That's been a big, big trend.
Whatever the future holds for comic books, it's sure to be colorful. I'm Sara Ratliff for LC3TV. Now on to Stephanie Mattis for some insight on the world of collectibles. Stephanie?